I fear the dark. It's a primal fear, gifted to us by our ancestors to avoid the things that go bump in the night. And yet, despite that, the night fascinates me. What is it about the dark that intrigues us so much? Why are we willing to throw ourselves into the abyss, knowing that the outcome could be catastrophic? Why does the void call to us? But more importantly, why do we answer? The game Dredge follows a fisherman as he crosses from his realm into something otherworldly, the fog itself acting as a bridge between his old life and his new one. Sometimes we answer the call of the void simply because it is our duty. Dredge is not about fighting back the darkness, it's about bringing the light. The people of this land, this ocean, are suffering and doing their best to survive. As their only source of getting fish, you are their light. You are their hope. It reminds me of the saying, if not me, then who? You are a fisherman, and it is your job to go catch fish. Two things stuck out to me immediately. First off, everyone told me to avoid the night. There are things out there that you cannot comprehend, and you need to be back by sundown. The other thing they all talked about was the missing fisherman, the last fisherman. No one knows what happened to him, and that was the most intriguing aspect of it to me. What did happen to the last fisherman? Still, my first job was to collect fish, and that's what I did. I went out and collected fish, got back before sundown, and there were no issues. Until one night. One night I returned back to the docks to sell my fish, only for the fishmonger to give me a mission. The mission was simple: collect fish, but the fish only appeared at night. I had stayed out once before, slightly too long, and the darkness surrounded me like a blanket of despair, threatening to suffocate me in its immense emptiness, and I did not want to be back out there. But again, if not me, then who? Thankfully, the fish I was seeking happened to be very close to the village, and I didn't have to leave too far even into that empty blackness that awaited me. However, after I finished getting my fish, I noticed a light in the distance. It wasn't the lighthouse, it was a moving light. It was a boat. This was odd. I'd never seen any boats during the day, but let us recall, I was looking for the lost fisherman. Maybe this fisherman was a night fisherman. I honked my horn. Maybe I'd get a response. To my surprise, I did. Sometimes the abyss shows us what we want to see and tells us what we want to hear. Event Horizon takes place in our near future, where humanity has already started mining Mars and is exploring the outer reaches of the galaxy. After being missing for 7 years, the Event Horizon suddenly appears outside of Neptune with no transmissions or signs of life. Everyone's wondering, where has the ship been and why is it back? When the movie begins, we are introduced to one of the main characters, Dr. William Ware, aka Alan Grant, aka Sam Neill. Dr. Weir appears to be suffering from a nightmare. He's already in space, and when he awakens, he seems to be missing something. We see pictures of his wife, we see him looking around his station, but even then, something is missing from his life. The Event Horizon is the place where Dr. Weir's wife was stationed. He has to know. He has to see for himself what happened. From here, we are introduced to the movie's other main character, Captain Miller, and his crew. They're a rescue crew, and their entire point is to go figure out what happened on the Event Horizon. The Doctor and the crew both travel through deep space to arrive at Neptune, but even before we get to the Event Horizon, we start to see the effects of what we could probably chalk up to space madness. Space madness is a Hollywood term, but it's very accurate to what you would assume would happen in space. Here's what it's described as. It's what happens when you find yourself in the depths of deep space, alone in the void. Your mind starts to fragment, to collapse in on itself. You feel trapped, scared, and unsure of reality. As I said, space madness is not an official term, but that's about the best description I can imagine of being trapped in space. Any delusion of this being space madness is quickly removed when they finally arrive at the Event Horizon. We don't know what happened here. Similar to our missing fisherman in Dredge, we don't know what happened to the crew on the Event Horizon, but we know something bad did. The entire ship revolves around this singular component, simply known as the core. The room and the core itself almost gives off this evil, demonic presence with protruding spikes and sharp shrapnel at every direction. It really looked like a safety hazard. Engineers probably should have sorted that out. This core acts as a gateway. As Dr. Weir puts it, it allows you to bypass the laws of time and space by making point A and point B become closer. You skip the space in between A and B and end up at B quicker. Incidentally, there is a skill similar to this in Dredge. The cost of using that skill? Madness. When we finally see the core open, a portal appears, and one of the younger crewmen, Justin, aka Baby Bear, is sucked in. Justin is eventually rescued, but is left unconscious and unable to tell anyone what happened. The priority now switches from rescue to survival. As Friedrich Nietzsche says, sometimes when you stare into the abyss stares back at you. The next time we see Justin, he is in the airlock, and he does explain what happened to him.
Did you hear it?
Keep him talking. Yes. Yes, I heard it. Do you know what it is?
It shows you things. Horrible things.
What does?
The dark inside me from the other place. I won't go back there. I won't.
Shortly after this, Dr. Weir explains to the captain that the ship left, a normal ship. But when it came back, it was changed. Now the ship is alive, and it needs a crew. Now I'm of the opinion of Captain Miller. Back out, launch missiles, and leave. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil anymore, but you should absolutely watch it. The crew is fighting for the survival of themselves, but also the universe. Sometimes the call of the void is as simple as this: good versus evil. If not me, then who? I was also tricked by the void. I heard the call and I answered, because I thought I knew better. I thought this had to be the other fisherman. He's in a boat fishing. He has to be him. If not, he'd have a clue. He'd know where my missing fisherman was. As I got closer to the boat, something odd happened. It started coming towards me, and then I saw the shape under the water. That was enough for me to say nope and get out of there. However, on my way back, rocks started to appear. These were illusions. It was clear as day, but I knew if I hit them, my boat would sink. It was a master class in fishing. That thing baited me out. I took it. Hook, line, and sinker. This did give me a newfound respect for the night, but I still had a mission. I still had to find out what happened to that other fisherman, and then it happened. A man simply known as the Collector came to me and invited me back to his island for a chat. He said he has the answers. So I took the bait again, and I headed to his manor. At first, I thought perhaps this man was the missing fisherman. He had the dredge equipment for my boat, so perhaps he was a fisherman that just retired. However, his motives were not as pure as catching fish. The Collector wanted items from the depths, lost to time, powerful artifacts that called to him from the deep. And this brings us to the next reason we answer the call of the void. We do so for power. In Arcane's 2016 Prey, we play as a man that is stuck in an experiment. Not only an experiment, but stuck in space. Talos 1, the space station. And if you haven't figured it out by now, the void is often represented as space or sea in the human psyche because it makes it easier for us to know what it represents. Talos 1 is the home of the Typhon. This is a type of alien that isn't quite a hive mind, but they work towards a common goal. They have free will, well, free will quote unquote for an alien, but they still work for the good of the colony. Using these Typhon, a new type of modification was created, simply referred to as neuromods. You inject these into yourself, and as a result, you can learn skills almost instantly. This could be a breakthrough that humanity needs. You play as Morgan Yu, the brother of the individual who is running the Talos 1 currently, and you are a big part of this experiment. You've already had neuromods placed in your brain, but they were removed. The downside to these neuromods is that when they are removed, any knowledge, any memories you gained when you had them on are lost. At the beginning of the game, we have lost our neuromods and we have no idea what's going on. We go through a few experiments, eventually waking up and going to the Talos 1 station itself. The The first thing you see, almost right when you come through the first door, is a blowout of one of the parts of the station. This station is in bad shape. However, the crew is in even worse shape. Those who are not dead have been transformed by the Typhon, becoming these weird blocky monstrosities of black goo. It reminds me a little bit of Resident Evil 7, to be honest. And one of the critiques of this game is that it's got very poor enemy variety. Still, we see the effects of the Typhon. We see the effects of these narrow mods on the humans and what happened to them. But not everyone's been transformed. Some of them are just dead. So clearly it doesn't affect everyone this way. Eventually you make it to your office where you left a message for yourself because you knew your narrow mods would be removed. And you explained to yourself what's happening. The ultimate goal? You have to destroy Talos 1. The Typhon have to be stopped here. This is where your brother steps in. And he says, hold on now. We can use something known as a null wave disruptor. This will eliminate the Typhon, but keep the narrow mods intact and keep the research alive so we can keep going. The choices you make throughout the game will basically allow you to either escape the Talos 1 or destroy it with you on it. The biggest decision the player will have to make is whether or not they give themselves the Typhon Nero mods. These give you awesome abilities like shock waves. You can sort of force, grab, and pull things, but it literally costs you your humanity. Similar to Baldur's Gate 3, when you begin the game and you have the Mind Flayer tadpole infect your mind, it gives you abilities, it gives you power, but the more you use it, the less of yourself you become. And in the case of Prey, if you become more Typhon, the station will turn on you. The turrets, the automated defenses will view you as a threat and they will try to kill you. How far would you go for power? What are you willing to give up to achieve forbidden magics? While talking to the Collector in Dredge, I asked him a simple question. Is he human? He responded with a simple answer. Well, of course, as human as you are, and it started to become clear. However, I still had a job, and I went to sell some fish. This time, I was greeted by the lighthouse keeper, who was not a big fan of mine. She had already told me to leave once before. This time, she asked me a different question. Am I doing the right thing? I told her I was, and she said, that's what you said last time, before leaving. As I said earlier, I began to understand. I had been here before. This would later be confirmed by the Collector when I asked him about his mysterious book. I was there when it began, and I will be there when it ends. I knew how to save this world. I just wasn't sure if I was willing to do it. And this brings us to the third reason that we face the void. We do so for love. Signalis begins as you are in front of a mirror. You look into that mirror and all you say is this: I came all the way here to find her. The entire mystery of Signalis is this: what happened to her? What happened to Elena? In Signalis you play as a replica. These are biomechanical humanoids made to basically work in tandem with humans. However, the replicas and the humans of this outpost seem to have already been lost. Some sort of disease is ravaging the crew, and it not only affects humans, but replicas as well. You play as a replica, so this is slightly concerning as the infection may get to you. However, your objective is simple. You have to find Elena. This is pure, unadulterated, unfiltered love, facing the void to find your loved one. I honestly didn't have much hope. When the game begins, things are so bad, I didn't know how any human could survive at all. Until I ran into Isa. Isa is not only a surviving human, but she is a fighting back human. She is here for the exact same reason I am. She is looking for someone in the dark. There's something comforting, something easing about knowing that you are not the only one searching in this abyss. Despite the fact that our interaction was very brief, I found Isa to be a kindred spirit, and that gave me comfort. So I started going further, deeper, until I ran into a broken replica unit that told me this: if Elena was still alive, she'd be down in the mines with the rest of the humans. I had to go down. The deeper I went, the more enemies appeared. It seemed less and less likely I'd find Elena alive, but I kept fighting. If I could find this administrator, the man that was mentioned to run this station, this Adler, I'd get some answers. One boss fight later, Adler found me. Asking about Elena, Adler seemed to know something, but before I got my answer, he pushed me down an elevator shaft. As I said earlier, the deeper I go, the more enemies appear, and now I was getting towards the bottom. It became a much harder fight, every level having handfuls of these replicants and humans that had been infected and turned. The worst part of it all, if I took too much time, they would respawn unless I burned them like Resident Evil 1. One thing this game does masterfully is that it gives you just enough hope. I ended up running into another replica that was not infected. She was hiding, she was alone, but she explained what happened, and the way she described how this disease had converted her allies and friends into something else was put beautifully. She said, "We no longer sing in unison. I cannot stand their song anymore. I've never been so alone." The replica's consciousness is connected to an extent, and as a result, she constantly hears this song that she is not a part of, but they're calling to her. She just refuses to answer. That's not an option for me. I have to answer. I had to go down deeper. After all, songbirds sing better in pairs. I actually ended up finding a journal from Elena that mentioned she too was looking for me, another droplet of hope as I headed down deeper into the mine. The mines were like another world, a disorienting mix of steel and flesh. With no map to guide me, I had to rely on memory alone. Down here, the enemy roamed freely, having made these sections their home. To my surprise, I ran into Issa again. However, this time she was being attacked and I helped her. In turn, she helped me, the result of such knocking herself out from the crazy powerful rail rifle she was using. I left her in the safe house and continued my journey. I knew I was close. There was still one obstacle though. Adler. What waits beyond the threshold? Adler asked me as he stood there with Issa's knife in his eye. I didn't blame Adler for what he did to me. He lost his songbird just like I was losing mine. What waits beyond the threshold? I had to know. She was there. She had to be. From here on, I will be spoiling the end of Dredge and Signalis, so if you want either of those endings yourself, now's the time to bail out. I appreciate you making it this far. There are multiple endings to Signalis, but ultimately it becomes clear that love is the most powerful motivator of all. My ending, I don't know if it was a good ending. I crossed through the threshold, and I passed by numerous bodies of people who looked just like me that had likely been here before me. I got to the ship. Elena was inside, but I couldn't get it open. I failed yet again. My corpse laying across the sand as I slowly powered down, not knowing if Elena was alive or dead. I faded into nothingness. It was an empty feeling, but one I quickly redeemed when I saved the world of Dredge. At the end of Dredge, I was given a choice. Bring this collector and his book to the ocean, to call forth the Leviathan, the destroyer of this world, the remaker of the rest of the world. Destruction or absolution, that is your choice. If you choose to save this world, you must sacrifice yourself. You brought the Leviathan here. You have to leave with it. You have to give it the book and let it continue the cycle. Or you can just let it consume the entire place and then be unleashed upon the world. That's ultimately your choice, I suppose. Love is sacrifice, and by allowing yourself to be consumed by the darkness, you bring the light. If not me, then who? I'm going to wrap it up there, but I do appreciate everyone that made it to the end, and if you liked what you saw, please give me a like and subscribe, and hey, even leave a comment. Let me know which section you liked the most, or what you noticed about the video. Also, if there's any other good examples you can think of facing the void, I do a lot of space stuff, space and deep sea stuff, so that's why it's all basically space stations and outposts. But anyways, I had a great time making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Have a good one. Later, Gators.